Hope everybody's doing good today. Down here at Cedar Creek Lake, gonna try to catch some more crappie. Working on filling up that freezer. So far, got a pretty good mess, and it's that time of year, man, so you just got to take advantage of it every chance you get. It's pretty foggy today, but clarity's okay, and it's like 9 o'clock right now, so didn't get a super early start, not as early as I wanted, but hey, sometimes you gotta sleep in. So today's gonna be all about shooting docks. They like vertical structure when it comes to crappie spawn. So here on Cedar Creek, for those of you who aren't familiar with this body of water, it's absolutely covered with boat docks that are fixed mounted with poles. They're not floating, they don't fluctuate with the water level. Just like this one here behind me, every dock has their poles, so it actually creates the absolute perfect structure for crappie to spawn. And so they really like getting inside or getting underneath the biggest, darkest docks that you can find. So that's what we're going to focus on today. But shooting docks is a really cool technique. I like to use a really short rod. It's like a 5-foot rod, maybe even a 4.5-foot rod. It's almost ice fishing type rod. I personally use 10-pound braid. I know a lot of guys fish for crappie with 2-pound, 4-pound, 6-pound fluorocarbon or monofilament, and that's fine. It works just fine. But when I'm shooting these docks, a lot of the poles are rusty, and you know, you still break a lot of fish off, especially if you get some good ones on. Whereas with the 10-pound braid, it's as small as, like, I think 2-pound diameter fluorocarbon, so it's just as small, shoots really well underneath the docks, and I don't break off if I get one wrapped around the pole. Not to mention, if I hang up with braided line, I can actually just directly pull on the bait, and a lot of times it will just bend the hook out a little bit because the wire on these crappie jigs are pretty small, and it'll bend that wire out, grab a pair of needle nose, put it back in place. We're crappie fishing. I'm not trying to catch world record bass, and I'm not worried about if my hook is a little bit weaker than maybe it was when it was brand new. I'll just keep fishing it until it finally breaks off. But at least with having the braid, I can pull it back, straighten it back out instead of breaking jigs off with fluorocarbon like you do. So looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really good day. It's overcast. It's supposed to be like 85 today, so it's going to be a really nice day here in a little bit, and hopefully we'll fill up a live well full of fish. I got a buddy that's coming down to join me, so hopefully I can figure out, you know, the key docks that they're using, because it kind of changes. They're not always in the exact same spot all the time. I do have a couple of docks where they tend to be most of the time, and that's usually what I check first. And so we'll start on those and see what they're doing, and if they're not there, we'll bounce around and check a few other places. So stick around. I think it's going to be good. What you want to do, you know, typically when we're pitching baits around, we usually hold the bait, you know, somewhere close to the reel, and then you flip just like you would do with a bait caster, and a lot of times even with a spin cast. But in this case here, what you want to do actually is you don't want to leave, you know, very much line at all. So as you can see here, I've only got maybe 2 feet of line out, and then you just want to barely drape the line around the tip of your finger. Just barely hold on to it there, and then you're going to take your bait. Make sure you hold it with the hook point up. Holding the hook point down is a good way to get a hook in yourself. Trust me, I know this. Hold the hook point up. You just want to cock it back, almost like a bow and arrow. Pull it back. Let it go. It's going to shoot way under there, way farther than you can flip it or pitch it under there. And then you're just going to let the jig go all the way to the bottom. Once it gets to the bottom, you just want to slow roll it back. Slow roll it. course, I just caught one on the previous cast and did nothing on that one. Load it up. The cool thing about a lot of the little plastic baits is that they skip really well. So you might even come up a little bit short on your shot under the dock. It may hit beforehand, but it's almost like skipping a rock on water, and it'll still go way under there if you really load up the rod pretty good. You want to try to reel it as close to the poles as you can. Again, that's where they like to spawn, and that's where they'll be kind of stacked up a lot of times. Trying to run down a row of docks pretty quick and I'm not quite sure, you know, which ones they're on. Instead of stopping on each one and, you know, taking the time to bend down and shoot underneath there and spend a lot of time, I'll just kind of hit the edges of the poles on the outside and just flip it just like you almost would a bait caster, except don't hit the side of the dock. And then if you get a couple bites, you know, doing that, or you get a bite on the dock, then you know, hey, there might be some more. Crappie are notorious about really piling up in big numbers. They are a schooling fish. So if you catch one or two, there's generally quite a few down there. Not always, but this time of year, and they just get in really, really thick numbers when you find out where they want to be. So that's a good way to just kind of cover some water until you figure out which particular docks or which particular, you know, stretch of bank or reeds or whatever it is you're fishing. So you figure out which ones they're holding on. And you don't have to leave it in there a long time either. Crappie are generally pretty darn aggressive. So flip it in there, let it swing back to you almost like a pendulum. And once it gets down below you, if you didn't get a bite, just lift it up and do it again. Don't spend a lot of time jigging straight up and down this time of year. Now there are times, like earlier in the year when I caught a lot of fish on the bridge, or in, you know, over brush piles or next to trees, where you want to hold it in there for, you know, a good while, and you might leave it down there and just hold it still. Not a lot of action, just holding it dead calm, straight up and down. Bounce it every now and then, and you'll catch a lot of fish like that when we're in the cooler months. But once it starts warming up, you know, bait fish are more active, fish are more active. We got 65-degree water temperatures right now, which is actually down a little bit from last week. So they may be a little slow today. Had a little cold front that came through over the weekend. Knocked this water temp down pretty good, actually. A little bit more than what I expected. Shooting docks. like that. That right there is why I like braid. You just totally had me wrapped on that pole. Just held on, kept tight pressure, pulled him right back around. And that is why I like shooting docks with braid. All right, man, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. We had a pretty good day today. We ended up with 25 crappie today. Not a killer day for numbers, but we caught some good ones. And my buddy Scott, who came down and joined me, he's never really fished for crappie at all before. He even caught a few once he got the hang of shooting the docks, which is not an easy thing to do. If it's not something you've done before, it definitely takes a little bit of practice, but by the end of the day, he had the hang of it. And we caught probably 20 of our 25 fish on either one of these two jigs right here. So grab you a pack of those. They're really good. They skip really well, and I think you'll be impressed. Pretty good bait. But hey, thanks again. I really appreciate you guys watching. Please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel and hit the like button and share it. Really means a lot. Thanks again. We'll see you on the next video.